children. Yes, it's a time to engage children, but it's also a time for all of us to be engaged at all different ages. And these are things I tell parents to do, but I also feel very strongly that the visual, the experiential is all part of what makes it a very memorable occasion and helps us to think about it and relate to it in a different way. So I am going to hope that the technology works. I'm signed in on 2 devices so that I can show you in the right way. First, I just want to say that even though we may spend a lot of time, we go very quickly through the 10 plagues with our pinky in our wine, and we think of them as horrible things that we may or may not be relating to. We certainly aren't relating to, cattle disease, and we hope we're not relating to lice. And it's just that there are so many things out there you can do to make the plagues part even just a little more visual. So certainly people put plastic frogs all over their tables. That's not a magic trick, but it's a great fun thing to do. You could buy one of these. It's a can of plagues. Or you can make your own plague bag and put toys in and all kinds of other things that you might have around the house just to illustrate. But one of my favorite things is the visual. So as you're telling the story, because after all, that is what the Seder is all about. It's all about telling the story, right? So as you're telling the story, or maybe you're at the story of your beginning of the plagues, you take a little bit. First, I'll show it to you. Hopefully it'll work. And then I'll tell you how to do it. So you could take a big pitcher, or here I just have a glass. Has a little something at the bottom. Don't pay attention. I'm covering it up. And you're telling the whole story about how Moses stood in front of the sea, in front of the Nile, and raised his staff, and then all the water turned to blood. This is easy. Now, it's not real blood, obviously. And everybody knows about the blood, but when you can see it and make it, now really what I've done often is add a big pitcher. I just did a little glass because it's easier for you to see on the screen. You can get kosher for Passover red food coloring, which I've only used ever to make blood because I don't really use food coloring. And then I poured it into the bottom of the glass so that it would sort of like dry up a little bit, so nobody would be suspicious at the table, because you can leave it there. Nobody will know, and you could be very matter of fact in how you're pouring the water, telling the story, but then look, oh, it turned into blood. Okay, so that's number one. The other piece is that there's several other pieces, but that's the first one that I wanted to show you. I also, when I was talking about the plagues, there are all kinds of things that people have in terms of puppets, finger puppets. Kids make their own, adults. Just put things on the table. We are told in the Torah, in the Talmud really, that anything that gets people to ask questions at a Seder is appropriate and is encouraged, because the mitzvah is really about telling the story, remembering that we were slaves, and the redemption from Egypt, but also relating to it in some way as it is for us in the year 2021. And that has been spoken about a lot this year. Okay, so now here comes the other one. You're welcome to ask questions in between, but I'm going to try to do the other one, which is going to require my using my other device. So,
to enable the camera on the other device.
I did. I thank you. It's not behaving for me, but it will. Okay. Okay. Now, I'm going to pin this video.
I did already.
You did? Okay.
Yes.
So you have before you a bowl of water, plain, right? I used to have a big giant glass bowl for Passover, which was really good. And then you know what happens to glass bowls, right? So we no longer have it. But it's any bowl, because as long as you fill it with water, and since you have an aerial view here, you see it's clear. You fill it with water, and then you take pepper and you just pour it on top. And there are some scientists among you who will know already that it's not going to sink. It's going to stay on the surface and cover the whole surface. So you just cover the whole surface. Try not to get too close, because then you're going to sneeze. And you cover it with pepper. And this can be also, because you don't want to leave it too long, it can be part of the telling, part of the story. Because what is this pepper-filled water really? This pepper-filled water is the Red Sea. Okay, it's black pepper. I don't know if it works with another pepper. I've only used it with black. But if we're telling a story, you can use your imagination. Okay, so you're at the part either. First of all, this can be done at any time. My favorite time to do these things at the Seder is when people look a little tired or hungry or bored, because it doesn't have to be in any particular spot. It's not in the Haggadah. There's stories all over, but it's part of the Haggadah. We tell the story, the 10 plagues, the children of Israel are freed from slavery. They come to the edge of the sea and they see that they're followed by the Egyptian army, and they think, oh, this is going to be bad. And we all know the story. Once again, Moses and the people of Israel with God, he raised his staff and he was able to part the waters of the sea. Okay, so now I'm going to tell you in real time how to do it, because it's really hard to repeat. So then I take a little Dawn or other dishwashing soap, put it on my finger. This is why it's really hard to do with just 2 hands, but I am. And then you see, you tell the story, and at the exact moment when you're telling about the sea splitting, you touch your finger just to the surface of the water.
That is so cool, Amy. Sorry, my mind was blown. That's amazing.
Sorry, did you get that?
Yes, we did.
All right, you can unspot that, but anyway, that's my favorite one, and I always tell people, and I've done this for a long time, but you eat, no matter if you're doing it a long time or it's your first time, practice it ahead of time, because I've done it for a lot of years at different kinds of workshops, and then one year I thought, okay, I don't have time, but what's the big deal? For some reason, I had the wrong kind of soap on my finger, and it did nothing. So make sure to practice this. But this is just like, this is a conversation starter. Anything that's a conversation starter at a Seder, much like the blood, much like anything visual that you could possibly imagine, could be, it's food for thought for children for sure. But I also think anybody at any Seder can be engaged on so many levels. And part of it is the discussion and the intellectual exploration. And part of it is the visual, because that really helps to contribute to creating and cementing our memories. And really, this is the holiday about memories, if it's about nothing else. Anybody want to share anything that you do that's particularly unusual in this area at your Seder? Or maybe, please, by the way, I didn't copyright these. Feel free to use them, take them. I want to hear how they work or they don't work at your own Seder.
I don't hear it.
Somebody doesn't hear. Okay, well, I would wish you all Chag Kasher V'Sameach, happy, sweet Pesach, filled with memories, filled with magic, and filled with joy, safety, and good health. Laila Tov.
Esther Koch, thank you so much, Rabbi Roth, for that, and really a Chag Sameach to you. And you can email any of the clergy for ideas as we get ready for all of our Seders. So have a great night to Rabbi Roth.